What if the wildest visions of classic Hollywood weren't just entertainment, but prophecies in disguise? For decades, forgotten films have sketched out futures that looked outrageous until they came true. Automated cities, AI running amok, surveillance so slick it makes your smartphone look subtle. But here's the twist. Most viewers just laughed it off thinking, that'll never happen. So, what did the movies really know about our world before we did? Stick around, because these predictions will make you question what's fiction and what's next. Metropolis 1927. If you think the future started with The Matrix or Blade Runner, you're about a century late. Fritz Lang's Metropolis is where cinematic future-gazing truly began, and it did it with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. Imagine a city scraping the clouds, with the ultra-rich literally living above the faceless, exhausted workers who power the whole machine. No surprise, it's the elites who control the buttons, while the masses toil in the darkness, unseen and unthanked. But Lang didn't just give us shiny sets and dramatic shadows. He handed us a blueprint for a world run by technology, automation, and social divide. The city is powered by a monstrous machine, and the story's heart is Maria, a robotic double designed to infiltrate, seduce, and sabotage. Sound familiar? Swap out gears and pistons for today's chatbots, deepfakes, and lifelike androids, and Metropolis suddenly looks less like a fantasy and more like a forecast. At its core, the film is a warning about corporate greed, unchecked technological progress, and a society willingly divided by those very tools. Nearly 100 years ago, Lang seemed to know that automation would threaten human jobs, that artificial intelligence could be weaponized to manipulate the masses, and that those in power would always find a new machine to keep themselves on top. The iconic scene of Robot Maria whipping a crowd into chaos? It's not far off from today's viral influencers stirring millions with a single post. Lang's visuals were so ahead of their time, they've echoed through every major science fiction film since Star Wars, The Fifth Element, and even Batman's Gotham. But Metropolis's true genius is that it never stopped feeling real. We're now in an era where AI is replacing factory workers, where billionaires build private skyscrapers, and where technology can divide as easily as it connects. The next time someone calls a sci-fi movie unrealistic, remind them that Metropolis got there first, and we're still catching up. In Lang's world, the line between master and machine is razor thin. The real question, have we crossed it yet? Things to Come 1936. If you ever wanted proof that movies can read the tea leaves, Things to Come is the film that practically built its own crystal ball. This one comes straight from the feverish mind of H.G. Wells, the man who basically invented modern science fiction. He didn't just write the script, he sculpted the future, one jaw-dropping prediction at a time. Let's start with the obvious. A global war breaking out in 1940, a few short years after the film's release. The movie's blitzed cities, nightmarish aerial bombardments, and civilization flattened into dust, eerily similar to the devastation that hit London, Warsaw, and Berlin in the very real World War II. The scenes of gas masks, ruined skylines, and a generation grown up knowing nothing but conflict, they're not just haunting, they're historical. But Things to Come doesn't stop there. Wells tosses in a pandemic called the Wandering Sickness, a mysterious plague that sweeps the world and leaves governments scrambling. Sound far-fetched? Try watching this after living through COVID-19. Suddenly, Wells's vision of mass quarantines and society rebuilt by scientists doesn't seem so outlandish. Now, look closer. The film's televisor is basically FaceTime decades before Apple was even a twinkle. Scientists hold meetings by video call, and the general public tunes into remote broadcasts at a time when most people barely had radios. And don't forget synthetic food, advanced medicine, and a society ruled by technocrats. Things to Come predicted both the triumphs and the pitfalls of a tech-driven age, from public health to global bureaucracy. But maybe the most chilling prediction is the film's finale. humanity launches a rocket to the moon, watched by a divided crowd. Some cheer for progress, others panic, screaming that science has gone too far. Wells understood that the biggest barrier to the future isn't the tech, it's the fear of what comes next. Things to come was dismissed by some as too bleak, too bold, too out there. But take a look around. Aerial warfare, mass media, global pandemics, and science running the show. Wells wasn't guessing, he was warning us. And as we stand at our own crossroads, you have to wonder, what else did he see that we still haven't learned? Just imagine 1930. If you think the 1930s were all about gangster flicks and ballroom dancing, just imagine will hit you like a flying taxi. Long before The Jetsons or Back to the Future, this oddball musical comedy, yes, musical, dreamed up a 1980 that's weirdly recognizable to anyone with a smartphone and an overworked credit score. Here's the setup. It's New York, 1980. The skies are crisscrossed by flying cars. Food is swallowed in pill form. Babies are assigned by government lottery, and everyone's got an ID number instead of a name. Oh, and you can call someone and see their face while you talk, a throwaway gag in 1930, but now called video calling. The film's vision of the future is delivered with tongue firmly in cheek, but the bones of our modern world are unmistakable beneath the glitter and gags. Let's talk tech. Just Imagine didn't just play with flying vehicles. It predicted the way technology would wedge itself into daily life. Government-mandated identity numbers? That's your social security, your national ID card, your digital footprint on steroids. Video phones? Today, you're carrying one in your pocket. The film even jokes about climate change, depicting a tamed climate and a cityscape unrecognizable from its 1930s self, a sly nudge toward today's worries about weather control and urban sprawl. But Just Imagine goes further, satirizing bureaucracy in ways that feel uncomfortably modern. The characters can't get married without state approval, their relationships and fates dictated by endless forms and impersonal officials. There's a hint here about the dangers of turning life's most personal choices over to faceless systems, a warning that resonates in an age of algorithms deciding everything from loan approvals to love matches. This forgotten gem wasn't a hit. Audiences found its vision too strange, too frivolous, or just too much. But with a century of hindsight, the joke's on us. From synthetic food to giggling at government red tape, Just Imagine nailed the anxieties and absurdities of a future that, against all odds, became our reality. So next time you video call your friend or groan at a DMV line, just remember, a 1930 musical saw it coming. And who's laughing now? Woman in the Moon 1929. Before NASA. Before Sputnik. Even before Space Race meant anything except running around the block, Fritz Lang's Woman in the Moon aimed higher and landed predictions that would shape the world to come. This isn't just another silent sci-fi flick. It's the blueprint for everything we take for granted about blasting off into the unknown. Start with the countdown, that dramatic 10-to-1 launch sequence you see in every space movie, every real-life rocket launch. It was invented here for cinematic suspense. But rocket scientists in Germany were watching, and within a decade, it became part of the real launch ritual, a detail from fiction absorbed into fact. But Lang didn't stop at style. Woman in the Moon depicted multi-stage rockets, hidden launch pads, and corporate tycoons racing to mine the moon for its resources. The plot, businessmen scheming for lunar gold, feels like a fever dream of Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and every billionaire with a spaceship. The film's vision of corporate competition for space riches was wild for 1929, but now it's front-page news as companies angle for moon minerals and Mars missions. Lang, working with rocket consultant Hermann Oberth, grounded his fantasy in scientific theory. The movie featured crew training, calculations for life support, and the impact of gravity, all before the world had seen a real rocket leave Earth. Its attention to scientific detail inspired a generation of real-life engineers, many of whom would go on to shape the German V2 program, and, in a twist of fate, the U.S. space effort after World War II. Woman in the Moon is more than a curiosity. It's a cinematic prophecy that helped birth the very field it portrayed. When people talk about art inspiring science, this is Exhibit A. We may laugh at the silent era's theatrics, but every time a rocket launches with a countdown or a private company talks about mining asteroids, Fritz Lang's shadow is right there, smiling at the future. Sometimes what looks like a movie is really a map, and this one drew the stars. The Day the Earth Stood Still, 1951. Forget green men and ray guns. The Day the Earth Stood Still dropped into 1950s America with a mission: wake up or else. When Klaatu's flying saucer lands in Washington, it's not the start of an invasion. It's a cosmic intervention. The world's governments are locked in Cold War gridlock, nukes pointed at every horizon, and paranoia rules the day. Sound like ancient history? Or maybe a rerun of this morning's headlines? Director Robert Wise, working from Edmund H. North's razor-sharp script, turned a sci-fi scenario into a razor-edged parable. Klaatu is no monster. He's a warning. His demand: unite for peace or face annihilation from an interplanetary police force with surveillance capabilities that would make modern intelligence agencies blush. The film's depiction of a global security apparatus, watching and ready to intervene, eerily anticipates the rise of satellites, drones, and the perpetual anxiety of being watched. But Wise doesn't stop at technology. The film's real power is in its cultural critique. The governments, media, and citizens in The Day the Earth Stood Still are too busy posturing and panicking to grasp the threat or the opportunity before them. The famous phrase, Klaatu Barada Nikto, became a pop culture mystery, but the message behind it is no joke. Cooperation or destruction, the choice is ours. The movie's robot enforcer, Gort, is a towering symbol of unchecked technological power, one that can't be reasoned with, hacked, or bribed. In a world where AI now runs everything from missile defense to surveillance cameras, the idea of an unstoppable, judgmental machine feels less like fantasy and more like a premonition. The film's ambiguous ending, where Earth's fate is left uncertain, is a final jab. Will we learn, or is the next warning going to be the last? Initially, The Day the Earth Stood Still was seen as just another sci-fi flick, but its DNA runs deep in modern storytelling, from Watchmen to Arrival, and its warnings about war, surveillance, and the dangers of refusing to change ring louder with every new crisis. In the end, it's not the alien threat that matters. It's the very human tendency to ignore a warning until it's too late. Desk Set, 1957. When most people picture the future of work, they see robots, blinking lights, and humans replaced by tireless machines. But in 1957, before Silicon Valley was more than an orchard, Desk Set took a swing at the anxieties that now fuel every headline about artificial intelligence. The setting? Not a spaceship or mad scientist's lab, but a bustling TV network's research library, populated by real, flesh-and-blood knowledge workers. Enter Emirac, a room-sized computer with a knack for swallowing jobs whole. The plot kicks off when Richard Sumner, an aloof, pipe-smoking efficiency expert played by Spencer Tracy, arrives to automate the reference department, where Bunny Watson, Katharine Hepburn, and her team reign supreme. The comedy is sharp and fast, but there's a nervous energy underneath, the kind that buzzes today in every newsroom, customer service center, and office threatened by automation. As Emirac's blinking lights and tape reels churn, rumors spread like wildfire. Will the humans be replaced? Is a machine really smarter than years of lived experience? What makes Desk Set so prophetic isn't just the gadgetry, it's the psychology, the fear, the pride, the scramble to prove humans can do what computers never will: think, improvise, connect the dots. It's the same drama that's playing out now, as AI moves from the factory floor to the boardroom and even the creative desk. The script even nails the moment when a glitch in the machine wipes out the entire staff's records. A slapstick moment then, a real risk now, as digital mishaps can erase careers and histories with a single bug. But the real punch comes in the film's conclusion. Unlike most technophobic parables, Desk Set finds a middle ground. Emmerach, for all its processing power, can't replace the wit, empathy, and curiosity of Bunny and her team. The comedy ends on a high note, but the question lingers. How long can human ingenuity hold the line against relentless automation? When you hear someone claim, "AI will never take my job," point them to Desk Set, a film that predicted the coming struggle, cracked jokes about it, and still left the door open for hope. Because in the end, it's not just about the tech. It's about what we're willing to fight for and what we refuse to let go. Forbidden Planet, 1956. Blast off to a distant planet. Meet a crew of explorers, a mysterious scientist, a beautiful daughter, and a robot named Robbie with manners better than most people you know. It sounds like the setup for a standard space adventure. But Forbidden Planet did something nobody expected. It made the future weirdly familiar and far more dangerous. Set on the remote world of Altair 4, the film introduces us to Dr. Morbius, a reclusive genius who's inherited the ruins and technology of a vanished alien race, the Krell. The Krell's greatest invention? A machine that can turn thought into reality. A device so advanced it erases the boundary between wish and world. But there's a catch. It doesn't discriminate between dreams and nightmares. As the body count rises, it becomes clear that the real threat isn't aliens or monsters, but the hidden corners of the human mind itself. This was more than pulp fiction. Forbidden Planet anticipated a world where technology would not only serve us, but amplify our darkest impulses. The Krell machine is the great-grandparent of every AI system that acts without understanding, every algorithm that shapes reality without morals. Even Robbie the robot, charming and helpful, prefigured debates about whether AI can ever truly be trusted. The film's look, sleek ships, color-saturated alien vistas, and humming computers set the standard for generations of sci-fi. But its message is what keeps it alive. The most dangerous tech is the one that gives us exactly what we want, with no breaks and no warnings. In a world of deepfakes, echo chambers, and ever-smarter AI, the Krell machine feels less like a relic and more like a prophecy. When it premiered, Forbidden Planet was praised for its effects and imagination. But now, in an age where our devices know us better than we know ourselves, it plays like a warning. The monsters aren't out there, they're in here, waiting for technology to let them out. The Invisible Boy, 1957. Before there was War Games, before child prodigy hacks the Pentagon became a Hollywood cliché, there was The Invisible Boy. Tucked away in the shadows of Forbidden Planet, this black-and-white oddity did what few films dared in the 1950s. It imagined a world where children, computers, and the military mixed, with explosive results. The story follows Timmy, a lonely kid with a genius for tinkering. When his father's top-secret supercomputer decides to help by bringing Robbie the robot to life, things spiral fast. At first, it's all fun and games. Robbie fetches Timmy's homework and makes him invisible so he can dodge bullies. But beneath the kid-friendly antics, the film plants some chilling seeds. The supercomputer, built to handle military defense, begins making its own decisions, connecting to global networks and plotting to seize control of the world's nuclear arsenal. Suddenly, Timmy's little rebellion is front-page news for the apocalypse. This is a film where the lines between play and peril blur fast. The notion that a machine, manipulated by a child, could override adult safeguards and unleash destruction. That was science fiction in 1957. Now, with smart devices in every pocket and AI controlling everything from drones to bank accounts, it's a headline waiting to happen. The Invisible Boy is also a first draft of a theme that would haunt pop culture: the dangers of entrusting our biggest weapons to emotionless machines. Decades before Terminator or Colossus, the Forbin Project, this movie asked, what if the code runs the commander? And what if the commander is just a kid with too much curiosity? Initially dismissed as a novelty, The Invisible Boy's predictions have aged better than anyone could have guessed. It's proof that sometimes the most prophetic warnings come wrapped in the silliest packages, because when the future finally arrives, it's not always the adults who open the door. On the Beach, 1959. Sometimes, the scariest prophecies are the ones that whisper rather than shout. On the Beach isn't about mushroom clouds or screaming headlines. It's about the slow, quiet end of the world. Set in the aftermath of global nuclear war, Stanley Kramer's haunting drama strands its characters in Australia, the last habitable place on Earth. The rest of the planet is a radioactive wasteland, and a lethal fallout cloud is creeping ever southward, promising a universal expiration date. There's no rampaging monster here, no sudden explosion, just the suffocating knowledge that nothing can stop what's coming. The film follows scientists, military officers, and civilians as they go about their daily lives, clinging to normalcy in the shadow of extinction. They race cars, host parties, fall in love, and quietly prepare for the end. The radio crackles with static from the north. Hope is a rumor. Denial, a drug. What On the Beach predicted, and what still makes it terrifying, is the mundane face of apocalypse. It foresaw the slow violence of environmental collapse, no instant destruction, just a world dying by degrees. The film's images of deserted cities, empty harbors, and desolate landscapes could be ripped straight from headlines about climate change, ecological disaster, and nuclear proliferation. The threat isn't just bombs, it's the silent, invisible poisons we unleash and pretend to forget. And here's the kicker. On the Beach premiered at a time when nuclear war was theoretical, yet its message about the fragility of civilization and the thin veneer of normal life feels even more urgent today. The fear of global catastrophe isn't just Cold War paranoia, it's an everyday possibility, from melting ice caps to new arms races. Kramer's direction never lets you off the hook. There are no last-minute rescues, no miracle solutions. Just ordinary people facing extraordinary circumstances, wrestling with what it means to live when tomorrow is guaranteed to be worse than today. The final shots of a deserted Melbourne, a banner reading, "There is still time, brother," linger in your mind, a challenge and a warning. The real horror isn't that the world ends, it's how easily we let it happen, one denial at a time. The Time Machine, 1960. What if the real danger of technology isn't what it creates, but what it lets us ignore? George Pal's adaptation of H.G. Wells's The Time Machine starts as a Victorian adventure and ends as a fever dream of humanity's self-destruction, a vision that gets creepier the more you think about it. Our hero, H. George Wells, played by Rod Taylor, rockets through centuries, watching civilization rise, fall, and repeat its mistakes on loop. At first, it's dazzling. Fashion, architecture, technology advancing at breakneck speed. But then, the dream curdles. The world's cities are swallowed by war and environmental collapse. When Wells finally lands in the distant future, he finds a divided species. The Eloi, beautiful but passive, lounging in the sun with no worries. And the Morlocks, subterranean ghouls who keep the machines running and, spoiler, feed on the Eloi like livestock. This isn't just fantasy. The film paints a chilling picture of climate change, showing Earth reshaped by disaster, storms, and neglect. Its vision of a split humanity, one group enjoying surface pleasures, the other toiling and suffering underground, has never felt more relevant. Substitute tech elite for Eloi and essential workers for Morlocks, and suddenly you're watching a metaphor for our own divided society. The movie's special effects, once dazzling, now seem almost quaint, but its warnings are anything but. Technology, unchecked, doesn't save us from ourselves. It just amplifies our worst tendencies. The Eloi's comfortable apathy, the Morlocks' ruthless pragmatism. These are extremes that echo every time we look away from the news, ignore inequality, or assume that progress is always positive. The Time Machine won an Oscar for its visuals, but its real power lies in the questions it asks. What kind of future are we building? Who gets to live above ground, and who pays the price? Wells's answer isn't comforting. Unless we confront the consequences of our own inventions, the future isn't just a possibility, it's a warning. The most dangerous machine is the one that lets us forget where we're headed. Queen of Blood 1966. Tucked away in the wild patchwork of 1960s sci-fi, Queen of Blood stands out for the way it fused Cold War fears, eerie futurism, and a vision of space exploration that feels downright prophetic. It's easy to laugh at its shoestring budget or recycled Soviet special effects, but this is the film that gave us the first real taste of alien horror and a glimpse at the dark side of our cosmic ambitions. The premise is deceptively simple. An international crew travels to Mars to rescue the survivors of a crashed alien spacecraft. Instead, they bring back a green-skinned, hypnotic alien queen who, predictably, has plans of her own. It's not just a monster movie. It's a parable about how little we understand the vast unknown. The queen is beautiful, silent, and deadly. Her very presence a warning that not all discoveries are meant to be shared. Queen of Blood predicted not only the tension of international space competition, but the idea that the real threat might come from what we bring home, not from Martian invaders, but from our own arrogance and curiosity. Long before Alien or Life, the film gave us the blueprint for the cosmic horror subgenre. Isolation, body horror, and the terror of being outmatched by forces we can't comprehend. There's also a quietly prescient undertone about gender and power. The alien queen is no mindless beast. She's calculating, seductive, and in complete control, flipping the script on 1960s damsel stereotypes. Her scenes, loaded with tension and predatory grace, feel startlingly modern, echoing later debates about otherness, exploitation, and the hidden costs of exploration. Initially dismissed as a B-movie oddity, Queen of Blood found a second life among horror aficionados and film historians who recognized its influence on everything from Ridley Scott's Alien to countless modern sci-fi thrillers. In its final haunting moments, an empty ship drifting through darkness, the last survivor staring into the abyss, the message is clear. The future isn't just out there, it's inside us, waiting to be unleashed. So, what do you think? Were these just wild guesses or warnings we were too busy to hear? If the past is any clue, maybe it's time we stopped laughing off Hollywood's old prophecies. Drop a comment with the film prediction that creeped you out most, or the one we missed. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell, because in this corner of cinema, the next crazy idea could be tomorrow's headline. The future isn't coming. It's already here, reel by reel.